And don't forget today, a very busy day, but today right here on stage, you've seen probably all the shows here, amazing entertainment and shows here on stage. However, today is Captain's turn to come here on stage with all of you, everybody. So once again, put your hands together and welcome on stage our Captain, Captain Marshall, everybody.
Good morning, everyone. A little AC/DC just to wake you up a little bit there, yeah? Excellent. As mentioned, I'm Captain Marshall. This is the Captain's Corner, a great opportunity for us to get to know each other a little bit. It's a magnificent, mighty ship, and as much as I try to get out and about, now you know where I'm from, huh? I can't necessarily get to see you all, so this is an opportunity for you to come out and ask those burning questions. Maybe it's something you've been wondering about for a while or just popped in your mind as you've enjoyed this cruise with us here on Harmony of the Seas. The way it's going to work, I'm going to preempt a little bit about my journey, how I ended up on the stage here on Harmony of the Seas, and that typically takes care of the normal questions that we get, okay? So hopefully I'll answer some of those questions. Y'all got a piece of paper there? You got a piece of paper? There's a bunch of numbers. I wasn't studying last night. I'm not a good student, so if you want to test my knowledge on the numbers there, I'm not going to know those off the top of my head, so it's there for your reference. But then after that, we can get a little weird, you know, let me know what's on your mind. And just to make it a little more personable, since you know who I am after I give my intro here, I'd like to get a little bit to know you. And if you can let me know your name, where you're from, I'll need social insurance number and your bank account, and that should do well, because you're going to hear about my teenagers, so I have some money I need to save up for their future there. So let's kick it off, and then after we'll open it up to the crowd for questions. You'll just raise your hands. Once again, of course, your name, where you're from, and the rest was just a joke. So it all began for me in Toronto, Canada. That's where I was born and raised. And hold your applause, it's okay. Sometimes Mom's here, but she didn't show up today, so that's fine. And I'm going to shock you because I was a little bit of an oddball, as some of us are. So as a Canadian boy growing up in Toronto, I've always wanted to be a professional hockey player. So that's a little bit strange. There's not too many Canadian boys who want to be professional hockey players. And that was my dream, and that's what I was pursuing. I was playing hockey in the winter, I was playing hockey in the spring, in the summer, in the fall, and that's my passion. And yeah, made it way up to the provincial level, and you know, looking out, hopefully, to make it to the NHL. Still waiting for the Florida Panthers to give me a call there, because I am happy when the Maple Leafs lose, and they did lose last night. And you might think that's strange, me being from Toronto, but I was not a good son. My father was a Maple Leafs fan through and through, so we had to fight, and I was a Detroit Red Wings fan, so therefore I'm not a Maple Leafs fan. But 18 years old, here I am about to graduate high school. All my friends, all my classmates are going on to bigger and better things. They've known what they wanted to do, but the door was not opening for me in the NHL. So, gut check time, I had to decide what I was going to do. During the summer, there was some time off of hockey, and I spent my time up working at a marina in the lake region just north of Toronto called the Muskokas. And it was there that I fell in love with just being on the water, fishing. I saved up to buy my own boat and would go out and do the water sports and swimming and all the activities there. And I just loved working on the outboard engines, pumping gas, all that kind of stuff. So I figured if I'm going to do something for the rest of my life, and I can't make a career on frozen water, let's try the liquid version. So I applied to the Canadian Coast Guard out of high school. I got accepted, things were looking good, and 2 weeks before we were about to start, they canceled the program because they didn't have enough applicants. So they said, you can come back next year and we'll double up, and hopefully there'll be enough applicants there. But I didn't want to just do nothing or work at a marina. I wanted to pursue this new passion of mine. So I then went to St. John's, Newfoundland, which is on the east coast of Canada. There's a rock there. It's literally called The Rock, is the nickname for the province. And in St. John's, I studied under Memorial University at Marine Institute for Nautical Science. So Nautical Science is a 4-year program, and it's a marine school where you graduate, you will get your first license towards being a captain. The first license is a watchkeeping mate certificate. So out of the 4 years, you spend 1 year at sea, and they break it up into what they call different work terms. My first ship, I joined what they call a self-unloader in Quebec City, and it was in January in Canada, in Quebec City. So got on this self-unloader. A self-unloader is just a big ship with a conveyor belts on the top of it, so it can unload itself. It has a conveyor system. It doesn't necessarily need a protocol with infrastructure to unload it. It can do it itself. And it carries bulk materials, mainly coal and stone, gravel, all those different materials. We were carrying coal at the time, and we took the ship from Quebec City all the way through the Great Lakes and up to Lake Superior to Thunder Bay. Did I mention it was January? Yeah, okay, all right. So we get into Lake Superior, and if you're familiar with the Great Lakes, Lake Superior is the largest lake. You might as well call it an ocean because it behaves like that. If you ever heard of Edmund Fitzgerald, okay, yeah, so that's a very famous shipwreck because of the tumultuous seas that you can experience there. Well, we got out into the open lake, and the seas were angry that day, and the sea spray was splashing over the ship. I mentioned it was January, right? Yeah, okay. So when fresh water sprays onto a ship and the steel is below freezing, then ice is formed. And that ice is a problem for a ship because it adds weight to the ship. So I was sent out as a cadet with a wooden mallet to go out and bang the ice off of the railings and off of the windlass and off of all the machinery up forward. And I can tell you, I came back in after what felt like hours, and my hands were numb. I'm not sure if it was from the vibrations of hammering steel or the extreme cold. Regardless, I finished that work term, went back to school, and I really thought this was a big mistake. I was not happy with my career choice, and I started to contemplate other things. But there was one thing my father always instilled in me, is that you're going to finish whatever you start. So I had started this journey, and I was going to finish it. In the school is retired captains, some of them still active, and they would come and teach us. So they gave us some advice, and one of them was, if you ever get an opportunity to work in the oil and gas industry, that is the way you want to go, because it's a robust industry. You're going to have a job for a long time. You're going to have great pension and pay and leave system structure on and off. So everyone was, vying for the oil and gas jobs. My second time out at sea, I was on an oil tanker. And I was hook, line, and sinker. I was happy as can be. We were sailing out of Dartmouth, which is Halifax area on the East Coast, and it was a product carrier, so we had 26 different tanks, and we were carrying Jet A, Jet B, marine gas oil, heavy fuel oil, bitumen, all these different products up and down the eastern seaboard to outports in the Arctic. It was phenomenal. Absolutely loved it. And right then and there, I decided I was a tanker man through and through. This is my trajectory. Now, those same captains who told us to join the oil and gas industry also gave us one more piece of advice. Whatever you do, don't work on a cruise ship. And no word of a lie, folks. And of course, as curious students, we said, why? Because the cargo can talk back to you. So I can stand here and attest that they did not steer us wrong, okay? The cargo does talk back to you. But however, what I've learned through the years is that's something that I thoroughly enjoy, and it matches my character 100%. However, at the time, I was a tanker man through and through. So what happened? How did I end up here? Like every single good story, there was a girl. Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. So in my class was Lauriane Lacroix. She was going on that self-unloader, not the same one as me, but the same company, different ship. Horrible experience for her. She then also got an opportunity to go on the tankers. Same company, out of Dartmouth, didn't have the same experience as me. For a female in the industry, there's a bit of a lag in the marine industry, especially on the cargo sides of things. Very misogynistic. There's even superstitions about having women on board. So she really went through some tumultuous times there. But her saving grace, and she was looking to leave this career path, was Royal Caribbean came to our school. And they were actively recruiting females in the industry, and they wanted bridge officers and engineers. and get them on the ship. So she was given the opportunity to go to Royal Caribbean. She was pretty, and I followed her. And that's exactly why I ended up on a cruise ship, you know. We were dating at the time, and I was like, I don't want to lose this one. So she went to explore the seas, was her first ship. My first ship in Royal Caribbean was November 2004, and it was Majesty of the Seas. And folks, I was scared out of my mind. I stood on the pier at Terminal G under a palm tree, which I'd never seen before in my life, looking up at this monstrosity. Now I'm just going to ask the team if they can put up a picture, because I have a special picture of Harmony and Majesty of the Seas. That's what I was afraid of. It seems pretty silly right now, doesn't it, to see where I am now compared to where it all began. But that was a mega class ship, and the Majesty was a phenomenal ship that served us well in the company. After the Majesty, I went on to Vision of the Seas, where I got promoted as second officer and worked my way up the ranks to first officer. I moved over to Radiance of the Seas. Radiance took me up to Alaska, down to South America. We did some world cruising with her, ended up in Australia, New Zealand, worked my way up to Chief Officer Safety on Radiance of the Seas, and then in 2012, the company called me. I was on vacation, and they said, can you come back early? We want you to go to Oasis of the Seas. And I was just tickled pink, folks, because she was an amazing ship. She was delivered in 2009, so she had a couple of years. They just had a lure come out in 2010, and I thought this was a great honor. I stepped on that ship, which is the same class as this one, and I just felt so proud. It was there on Oasis that Captain Trim Selvig promoted me to staff captain on board, and that's the second in command. Throughout that time, I was upgrading my license, where you go from a watchkeeping mate license to a chief mate license to a master mariner license. So to be staff captain, you have to have your master mariner unlimited license, and that's no matter which country you come from, that's a requirement. Because the staff captain essentially is here to take command of the ship should anything fall on the captain. Not like from up there, but you know what I'm saying, right? Then in 2015, the company called me, once again while I was on vacation. There seems to be a pattern there. But they said, Marshall, can you help us? We would like to send you to France, because we're going to build a ship there, and we haven't been to that shipyard in a long, long time. And I said, absolutely. I would love the opportunity to go see a ship be built, be a part of the startup procedure and everything. So I went to France for 6 months, and that was Harmony of the Seas. So I went there as staff captain. So this is my baby girl. I have two boys, 17 and 15 now, and never figured out the recipe for a girl. So this is my baby girl, because I've seen her, and I literally had blood, sweat, and tears in the hull of this ship here. But that was as staff captain, and I sailed in staff captain on her, and then the pandemic hit a little bit later on, and I went from every ship in the fleet. I got promoted to captain in July of 2022. That was on Independence of the Seas. But once again, I was on vacation, and they said, we have an opening for captain on Harmony of the Seas. I just hung up the phone and went directly to the ship. I was so happy to get that opportunity. So I came to Harmony in December of 2022, and that's where I am now. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, it's always a silver lining to every cloud, but I will be leaving Harmony of the Seas next week, May 18th, and that will be the end of my tenure on board here, and I'll be going to Utopia of the Seas. So I'll get a new adventure and opportunity to sail all the way to NASA and Coco Cay, again and again and again and again. But it's like a new car smell on there still, so it's a little bit of new hardware. So that's my journey, folks. Some people will question about my wife's journey and all that. She continued in the company, and we were sailing opposite contracts and saving up money for our first home. And then when our firstborn, Braden, was at that age of going to school, we had to really make a decision on what we're going to do there. My wife went on Liberty of the Seas to Europe. I was home with the kids. We weren't able, for financial reasons, to truck us all over there and sail with her. She came back from that contract on Liberty of the Seas and says, I can never leave my kids again. It's just too hard. You know, that mother-son bond was too much. So after 10 weeks of being away, she's like, I can never do this again. So that made the decision, because I raised my hand and I said, honey, after 10 weeks at home with 2 toddlers, I am that kind of man that I am willing to go away for 10 weeks and take a break. So that was our decision. She would be land-based, and she continued in the marine industry. She now works for the federal government doing legislation of marine certification and working on the future, which is autonomous shipping and stuff like that. She's a smart cookie and still a very pretty girl, by the way. And we've been married now for 18 years, so it's been a great journey. Yeah, we can clap for 18 years. We're still part of that one. So my son Braden, 17 now. Guess what he always wanted to be? Professional hockey player. Yeah. Guess what? He ain't gonna make it. I hope he's not watching, but so we're gonna drop him off in Newfoundland in September this year. My wife and I will drop him off at the exact same school where we met. So it's like a full circle journey. Yeah. So there's a Hallmark movie coming out soon with our life, but it's no word of a lie. All right, so that's my journey, folks. That's enough of me. Let's start hearing from all of you. So raise your hands. These 2 lovely ladies will get you, and if we can't get you, I will find you later on and answer your questions. Go ahead.
My name is Everett, and I'm from Canada.
All right. Where in Canada, Everett?
Alberta.
All right. It's cold there in the winter.
How fast can this boat go?
All right. So this ship, before you buy a ship, because I was part of that startup process, before you buy it, they do what we call sea trials. And that's where they go as fast as they can. And there's actually an incentive for the shipyard after a certain speed. So the minimum that they had to reach was 22 knots. And then anything above that, there was an incentive, financial incentive. I don't know what it was, but there's something. And we maxed out at 22.5 knots when we did the sea trials. Now, that's your new Corvette, right? Okay. So now she's got some growth on the hull, and the engines are a little bit worn in and everything like that. So we were able to do 23 knots last week when we left Cozumel, but we were cheating because we were using the Gulf Stream there. We were following with the current, so it was pushing us. We can look at 21.5 knots now, and what is that in miles per hour for my other friends here is 23, 24 miles per hour. Yeah. Okay.
Hello, Captain Marshal. My name is Mark, and this is my wife, Susan.
Hello.
And I met you on the ship earlier in the week, and
Right.
you were talking with a guy, and I told him, I said, let me tell you what kind of a captain this guy really is.
Uh-oh.
And he said that this could go either way. But,
Yeah, exactly.
but anyway, what happened was we had been on Harmony of the Seas a few other times, and there was a gentleman that asked you the question here at Captain's Corner. He said, Captain, who really makes the decisions when we're in rough waters, or if we have some serious decisions to make? Who is the person? Does your company do it, or do you do it? And I remember your answer to this, and you said, well, I'm the captain, and I make those decisions. And so it was really kind of interesting, because on that trip, we were able to go, we were going to go into a port, and you decided not to go in there because you said, we'll get in there, but we're not going to get out. And so anyway, we got back on another cruise with you in January, and this was a completely different kind of situation. And the reason why I want to tell people this is to tell people who you really are. So we got sailing in January, and we sailed for about 2 days, and my wife had developed a serious stomach infection. In fact, it was touch and go for a while. They got her down to the medical ward, and your medical team and you made a decision to get us off the ship in Cozumel. We were supposed to go to Honduras. When you called Independence of the Seas, you told them to hold off port We pulled in, you dropped us off, the medical team was there, the surgeon was waiting for us at the hospital, and because of your actions as a captain of the ship, she's alive and with me today. Thank you, sir.
Amen. Thank you very much. I'll come see you after, man. I'd love to give you a hug, yeah? Thank you very much for those kind words, and yes, that's part of the job that can be very difficult, difficult decisions to be made. It's something that Royal Caribbean, when I got interviewed to be captain, they told me, is that we will support you. You don't get that from every company. Sometimes there's a lot of commercial pressure. Canceling a port, as you mentioned, that was NASA. We would be able to get in there, but we weren't going to be able to get out. And then making diversions, of course, to aid other people. But this company fully supports the decision of the captain. I've never been challenged on those decisions, and that gives you the freedom to make the right call. So thank you very much for those kind words. All right, next question.
Captain Marshal, my name's Larry Williams, and we're from Longview, Texas.
All right. Well,
We're having a great time.
good.
Could you talk a little bit about the type, kind, size of the engines and the propulsion system?
Sure, absolutely. Let's throw out the pictures of the Azipods there. So this ship is a diesel electric. Okay, we boast 133,000 horsepower. Tim Allen? No? Some of you? I just split the room there. Yeah, I can see some of you. He's still trying to make shows, right? So that's good. But yeah, that's a lot of horsepower there. And with great power comes great responsibility. Spider-Man fans? No? Okay, all right. So these are our Azipods. This is what's bringing us forward right now. And these Azipods actually face forward. So where the car is the back of the ship. The front of the ship would be continuing through the picture there. And those propeller blades are right now facing forward, and they work like a corkscrew. And the reason they do that is because it's all about efficiency. Having the propeller facing forward, it receives undisturbed water, and it's all about what they call laminar flow. If I have any turbulence in the water, think of an airplane. You feel turbulence on an airplane, right? Okay. So if I have any turbulence in the water that is going into the propeller, I have what we call propeller slip, and that reduces the efficiency. Of course, if I reduce the efficiency, I have to use more fuel to go the same speed or go the same distance. So those are 3 Azipods that's unique to Oasis class, and now Icon has it. They're the only ships that have 3 Azipods. And when we talk about total horsepower, that is our propulsion plant, but for the power in those 3 pods is about 90,000 horsepower. Okay? If we take a look at the front of the ship, this is how we use our bow thrusters at the front. They'll bring up a picture of it here shortly. And the bow thrusters are tunnels in the hull. And in those tunnels, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 there. Okay? The tunnels in the hull have propellers in them, and the propellers move water from one side to the other. Now, some people have told me, but Captain Marshall, there's actually 5 holes, and they are correct. The last one, and that's a person for reference, so the last one's a little bit smaller, and it's just called an anti-suction tunnel. And the reason it's there is just to allow some water to pass from back and forth because of the area of the thrusters and the efficiency of the bow thruster number 4. So if we didn't have that anti-suction, then you would have turbulent water and the thruster number 4 wouldn't be so effective. You can see for scale there's the anchor and the anchor chain. A little bit of a mess. I don't like that picture, but it should be laid out a little bit nicer than that. But just for a scale purpose. So I know the Icon is a bigger ship than ours. I don't care. But we do have the bigger bow thrusters still. So we still hold something true here. Granted, they have 5 and I have 4, but I have 5 tunnels. I just don't have a propeller in the back. There's always competition between captains there. So diesel electric is our propulsion system. We create all the electricity on board, and the engines are connected to generators, and we have 2 separate switchboard rooms, 2 separate engine rooms. They can cross from one to the other for redundancy. The propellers are electric, so the Azipods, and the bow thrusters are electric. The load on the Bow thrusters is about 30,000 horsepower up there. And then the rest of the power is going to operate the hotel load. So the microphone, the lights, all that is also supplied on board as well. In order to do that, we burn heavy fuel oil, and the heavy fuel oil is purified on board, and then the exhausts are cleaned. So our exhaust looks a little different, like it's whitish sometimes, and that's because it's mostly steam, which is cleaning the exhaust from all the sulfur oxide and nitrous oxide as well. Good. All right, next.
I'm Tom. I've been from Texas all my life.
All right, welcome, Tom.
I believe that I read that this ship has a system of making bubbles underneath to improve the slickness. And I can't visualize how you get the bubbles there unless they come out of the keel or something. So,
Okay, great
info,
question.
please.
All right, so once again, when the ship was purchased, there was an incentive for the shipyard to make the ship 20% more fuel efficient. They were successful in this, and there's an award up on deck 15 aft in the guest lobby where the ship model is. There's an award down there for the accolades for that achievement. In order to do that, they introduced many different systems, and one of them is called air lubrication. That's what you're alluding to. We have compressors on board, air compressors, that are pumping microscopic bubbles under the hull. And it's just gratings underneath the flat bottom that are pumping out the bubbles, and those ride down the bottom of the hull. And that reduces the friction between the water and the steel hull, so we can move through the water a little bit with less resistance and therefore a bit more efficient. It's not like you turn the bubbles on and all of a sudden everyone holds on and puts their seatbelt on, but there is some efficiency that we see after long-term use at higher speeds. One of the issues that is associated with it is once you put bubbles under the hull, we have to deflect them away from the propellers. As I mentioned, we can't have undisturbed water going into the propellers. That's fine, that's handled with hull design. But I also have intakes, because someone later might ask me about the fresh water. We produce all the fresh water on board. How do we do that? We use the salt water. Where do we take the salt water from? Under the hull. So when the bubbles go in the intakes for the fresh water, then of course you get airlock on your pumps. So we can't use the two systems at the same time. So that's what the chief engineer is in charge of managing, is using the air lubrication system, but also making sure you all have enough fresh water to fill the pools, for your showers, for your toilets. I'm not sure, are the toilets fresh water or salt water? Anybody check? Or? We'll leave it a mystery, all right? I gotta leave something out there in the ether for you to figure out, so go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jim from Houston. I have a question about the pilot boats.
Yes.
Why you use a pilot to bring the ship in and take it out, and how much does it cost to have that process?
Okay, yeah, great question. Anytime I bring a ship into the waters of another country, I have to follow the law of that country. So when we go to Roatan, Honduras, they dictate that I have to have a marine pilot on board, which is the same for Mexico. But you might have noticed Costa Maya, they don't come on board when we depart. So there's different rules for different ports. When we take the ship to Coco Cay, there's no pilotage there. When we go to Galveston tomorrow morning, we'll have a pilot come on board. The role of the pilot is to provide local knowledge. I would prefer every time to have a pilot. They don't actually drive the ship, but they provide me with information on traffic, weather. Roatan's very interesting there because that harbor is nice and enclosed, but there's a river actually running out right behind our pier. And if it's been raining the last 3 days, that's good information for us because there'll still be some current that we'll feel while we're docking the ship. So that's what they supply to us. They also liaise between the linesmen or line people who are handling our mooring lines. Again, in Roatan, they're doing that with small boats. The other ports of call, they're managing it from the pier. The only difference between Galveston and the other ports is Galveston pilots will assume the con, which means they say which heading we steer and how fast we go through the channel, through the main ship channel and into Galveston channel, but they don't dock the ship. And they don't want to, maybe they do, but we don't let them because they don't handle 3 Azipod ships. Remember I just mentioned there's only a few of them around, so We have the expertise for maneuvering those ships. They have the expertise for navigating through the channel, coordinating with the tankers, the 10,000 tankers coming in and out of Houston there, and managing that aspect of it. But it's a teamwork relationship. Yeah.
Good morning, I'm Stephanie from Missouri. I'm just
All right,
wondering how far the ship's underwater when
So 30 feet. 30 feet is what we call our draft. So we're always looking, when we go in and out of ports, we want to have, we do talk a little bit more in meters, but let's say 6 to 7 feet as a minimum. The shallower it gets, the slower I have to go, because as the ship goes faster, it actually sinks. That's called a squat effect. Yeah. Good. Yes.
Catherine from Houston.
Hello.
Since this is a mega ship, how big, how many ships are bigger than that Royal Caribbean has, and what's the biggest passenger load that any of them have, any ship?
So Icon class is the world's largest at the moment. Passengers, I think they're up to 9,000 passengers. I could be wrong. Somebody can Google it. Did they turn off the Wi-Fi? Oh, they did. So you can't fact check me. So, but it's out there. I don't know exactly how many guests they have, but they're probably 1,500 more than what we're able to carry. So we're the second largest. But thank you for asking. We used to be the largest. Yes, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Shannon Anderson, and I'm from San Antonio, Texas.
All right, welcome.
So, to my left is a gal named Michelle, and this is really her question,
Okay.
and she was afraid to ask.
Has she seen the bus yet, or is she going to be thrown under the bus here, or what?
Okay, her question is about you, and it's a little provocative. So
Okay, let's hear it.
I'd like to see if you're willing to answer the question.
All right, let's go, Michelle.
What's your shoe size?
My shoe size. There we go. Fantastic. I'm boasting a size 12. There you go. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Richard from
First
Conroe,
time, by the
Texas.
way, I've ever been asked that. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
First off, thank you for a wonderful vacation.
Oh, you're
Your crew,
welcome.
your ship, your entertainment, everything is fantastic.
Let's clap for the crew, please, because I just joke on stage. Those crew are working their buns off and they do a phenomenal job. So thank you for recognizing it.
My question is, why did we leave Costa Maya so early yesterday and go in so slow today?
Yeah, good question. Exactly. So our normal itinerary is to go 2 sea days, Roatan, Costa Maya, Cozumel. But once per year, they shut down Coco Cay. And Coco Cay needs a little bit of maintenance, a little bit of love. And in order to accommodate the ships that are going there, they reversed our itinerary. And that just happens once per year. I agree that maybe we could have stayed a little bit longer, but 4 o'clock is our departure every single week, and I think it was just something that remained that way. There was no thought put into that any further, yeah? And I missed y'all a little bit there. I was getting lonely on the bridge. I'm like, come on back on board. We got some time to spend together. So.
Another question, in the mornings, the water in the swimming pool and the saunas are crystal clear.
Mhm.
In the afternoons, not so much. What kind of sanitation do you have throughout the day?
Okay, yeah. So we used to have sand filtration, now we have membrane filtration on board. We are audited by the U.S. Public Health with regards to maintaining the standards there, and they come on board unannounced. They typically come twice a year, every 6 months, but they can come as much as they wish, and every time they come I have to pay them. So it's a program that won't disappear because it's self-funding. But we're held to the highest standard when it comes to that. And of course, yes, you wear sunscreen, you get in the pool, and you put enough people in the pool that it does become cloudy a little bit. We can't keep it 100% crystal clear unless I was constantly adding fresh water. But I can't do that with the capacity to produce fresh water on board. So at nighttime, the pools are drained or they're left, but because you're all not in them, the filters get a chance to catch up. So we're always monitoring, and these systems are automatically keeping the information so it can't be manipulated, and we have to present it to them. If we're ever not within the standards, then the pool will have to be closed. And you may have seen that from time to time throughout the week. where we've asked people to leave. The other issue is visibility for the lifeguards. In order for them to do their job, they need to see the bottom. So they have marks on the bottom of the pool, and if they're unable to see it, then they're going to have to close the pool and wait for the filtration to catch up. Yeah, excellent question.
Hi, my name is Fernando, and I'm from Texas, and how many people fit in this boat?
In this ship, 8,880. Yeah, so that's the total amount of people that we're allowed to carry. What limits that is the life-saving capacity. Once upon a time, there was a ship, and it was called the Titanic. It ran into an ice cube, and they didn't have enough life-saving capacity on board. So what happened after that? A convention that all countries came together and said, these are the minimum standards. The convention was called the Safety of Life at Sea. From that convention, it was dictated that we must carry 125% of the capacity of people on board in life-saving appliances. So we do that through 18 lifeboats at 370 capacity, and I can see the mathematicians already going, And then we have 4 marine evacuation systems, which are those boxes and life rafts that you see on the side, and those are accommodating mostly crew, actually all the crew, in order for them to evacuate. They go through a little bit more specialized system because they're trained to do so. All right, thank you. Gotcha.
Hi, yes, this is T. Hong from Houston, Texas.
All right, welcome.
And the question we have here is, where is our water waste go, and where is the food waste go?
Okay, excellent. So water waste and food waste, we have what we call waste streams. So we have a black water waste stream, which is sewage on board, and that's treated through a sewage treatment plant. Advanced wastewater treatment plant is what we call it. And everything is screened. The water, they say, that comes out of that plant you can drink. I don't trust people that much, so I'll let them try, but it's clear on the other side, and the water goes through UV filtration, plastic screening, magnets to ensure that nothing goes overboard, and then once we're 12 miles away from land, we can pump the residual from that system overboard. The other waste stream is called gray water. That's coming through your showers, down the sinks, and that is actually stored on board and processed through the same advanced wastewater treatment system, AWP. As for the food waste, we have huge pulpers on board. The company is really looking at what we call a program, Win on Waste. Food waste is not just important from a financial standpoint, but it's also been, well, it's one of the biggest greenhouse gas emitters is the wastage of food, and also there's many people out there without food security, so it's a shame if we're wasting it. So it's also the right thing to do. They're taking a look at this so severely now that we're integrating AI and systems to manipulate, but analyze data on your trends, the type of people that are on board, where you're from. Did you know that if the pressure drops and it gets a little cloudy, you come inside and you'll eat more soup? I didn't know that, but you do. Yeah, so there are some human tendencies, and we have an officer whose sole job is to monitor the amount of food that's produced, and we're measuring how much food is wasted. Inherently, there's going to be some food waste, because if you come to the Windjammer Buffet and there's one shrimp, you're going to fight each other for it, right? So we have to deliver a product of your expectations as well, but we want to do it in the most responsible way. So we do have a large pulper system on board, and then it's created into a slurry. We press out all the water, and that water we can pump after 12 nautical miles away. The residual pulp that's left over, we can burn in the incinerator. We can land to a facility that treats it in Galveston. And that's how we deal with our food waste. So you're going to see more and more from the company because they're ramping up their focus on this aspect.
Thank you, Captain. We have one question up there and one more here,
Perfect.
and that'll be the last.
Yeah, we got veterans, that's right, okay. Yep.
I gotta get this on video because nobody will believe me that I had the guts to ask. My name is Monica and I'm
Size
from
12.
Croatia.
Oh.
Is it the same with the size of cars as well? No, that's not the question.
Okay, tell me.
So my question is, how big of a headache do runners give you? Because
Pure runners.
so every time the ship leaves the port,
Yeah.
there are runners who are a little late.
Yes.
So is that a big of a headache for you? And how many times, if you recall, did you have to leave somebody behind?
Okay, excellent question. So I'm very proud to say, I mentioned I was captain July 2022. During my career as captain, I've never left someone behind. Yeah. Some of them have chosen not to come back, but me personally, I have never left them. So it was their decision, not mine. You thought I was good, huh? Okay. Peer runners, you know what's the pain with peer runners? Is their popularity now. Some people are doing it just to be famous and they make up some weird stuff. I haven't seen it recently this year. Generally our guests here from Texas are on-time people, but you do see the popularity of it grow in the shorter cruises. So most people don't want to be left in Roatan, Honduras and have to find their way back. But yeah, in my career, let's say it can happen once or twice in a contract. It's very concerning for us, to be honest. As a captain, I joke about it, but it's a concern because we don't know where the people are, and sometimes it's not because they're just late or shopping or whatever it may be. It could be that they need some assistance. So we have an entire process that's initiated as we get down to the last 100 people or as we get close to the all on board time. We start vetting the list, and then we call your emergency contact line and get the local pizzeria. Thank you for that. That's very helpful. So if you can give me the right contact number, it would really help us, and you can tell me you're 5 minutes away in a taxi, which is usually 10 minutes, but that's okay. I'll forgive you for that. But at least knowing where you are. We also reach out to the police stations. We reach out to some of the local resorts, the hot spots, and we reach out to hospitals to try and locate the people. Of course, we reach out to anybody that you're traveling with, also to get as much information as we can. We have in every single port of call a port agent, which is the liaison between local authorities and the ship. So even after we leave, the port agent has to stay on the pier in case somebody shows up, and we need to get that information as soon as possible so we can stop worrying about it. Yeah. So it's a serious thing that is kind of cool on Facebook or YouTube or wherever we're doing it, but it becomes a little stressful for us. Yeah.
Thank you, Captain. We have the last question right here before we go to our badass tribute.
Captain Steve from Dallas.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, during the captain training program, or particularly when you're changing classes of ships, do you utilize any simulators similar to an airline pilot, or is it all on the job?
Yeah, every promotion step we go through simulation, and they test you at the level for the rank that you're going to move into. So they'll give you different scenarios. If you're a watchkeeper, a first officer, second officer, they'll put you in the English Channel on a simulator. We have a partnership with a simulation company in Rotterdam, so it's fantastic. We get to go to Rotterdam and you get to go play in the simulator. When you change class of ship now as a captain, there isn't any simulation. I go and facilitate the assessment of the next generation coming up, but a lot of the training is done on board. My staff captain, he'll do a lot of the maneuvers. Costa Maya, I don't know if you saw that, a little breezy, yeah. So he was using a lot of power. That was the staff captain who actually docked the ship, and he had his hands full there. There was 1 knot of current and 30 knots pushing us on the pier there. So you get a lot of training throughout your time before you move to the next step, but there is a final assessment. If I go to another class of ship, then I'll go 1 week earlier and do what we call a handover and get a chance to learn the nuances of that ship. I've already spent some time over on Utopia. So, yeah. Great question, thank you.
Thank you, Captain. And ladies and gentlemen, let's hear one more time for our Captain, Captain Marshall. We thank you, Captain, for being here. Amazing leader. And of course, as you can see, we do have 2,200 crew members here on board taking care of you. I hope you're doing a good job as well. Give it up for the crew members as well. We're working very hard every day. Now, don't forget to come and join us at 11:15 in about 15 minutes time on the Royal Promenade. We do have our Veterans Tribute, the very important event we host here. So make sure you join us there. And don't forget, we have shows this afternoon in the Aqua Theater, also Ice shows in Studio B. And of course, if you haven't seen Columbus tonight, 8:30 p.m. right here. But enjoy your beautiful day, everybody, and we'll see you around. Thank you, everybody. Ciao, ciao.